Chikoto. Last week we were talking about the Christian and what it means to be a Christian, and today we'll be looking at the Christian and integrity. Here to help me are my friends
Sibyl,
Raywell,
Felicie,
Mom.
and so let's begin. So, Fenice, how would you define integrity?
I'd say it's being able to stand in the face of challenges and using your values to do so. It can be Christian values, it can be personal values, but being able to stand on those values when you're faced with the challenges of life.
And does anyone else have a different definition?
It could be the quality of being honest and upright, where you are whole and undivided. You stick to one thing. Yeah, something like that.
I've got several definitions with me. There's the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. And there's also the state of being whole and undivided. But I think out of all the definitions I've heard of integrity, my favorite would be doing the right thing even when nobody is watching. And that's how I would define it. Do we all agree with that?
very much so.
Okay, and what does being having integrity and being a Christian entail? Like, what does it mean?
I feel like as a Christian, we have values and morals that are separate from the person. So which means your morals and values are not compromised wherever you are. Simply.
Yeah. And anyone else?
Being true to yourself. So as Christians, like he said, we have values and morals. We don't have to compromise. We just have to be true to ourselves. We don't have to look at who's watching me or who's not watching me. We just have to have that integrity where you just, okay, I'm a Christian, I'm meant to do this, let me just do it for the sake of me being a Christian. And not just because my mother is watching or my father is watching me.
And not just having them, like understanding them. Because if like you say, okay, these are values, like if you don't understand them personally, like, oh no, my parents just told me, if you don't understand the value of keeping those morals and those principles, then it's not going to be easy for you to like stand on them when you're faced with challenges. So having those values and understanding why they're important to yourself, like as a person.
Just like Sanisi said, it's one of those things, you can't just do it because people are around you or something. It has to be inborn. So it's one of those things, if you believe it and you stay true to yourself, then it becomes easier. Don't do it because it's like everyone's watching you around you, so it's like I have to show that I'm better or whatever. It's one of those things, you know, what you do in public, it has to be the same thing you do in private too.
True, yeah, that's true. And I think just to sum it up, I think most of you have touched on the fact that having integrity also means standing up for what you believe in, even when the stakes are high. So it means even if you're going to get in trouble, just for the sake of staying true to your principles, your values, then, you know, that's what integrity is all about. But how easy is it to have integrity?
It's not easy, especially in the age and day we're living in. It's very difficult to actually have integrity, looking at what is surrounding us, who is surrounding us, and what we're surrounding ourselves with. So we need to be very careful with our environment every time so we can actually see that we're doing the right thing. But having integrity, trust me, it's like one of the most difficult things someone could ever do, especially a teen Christian. It's very hard because at this age, it's when you learn different things from different aspects of life. So yeah.
And it's like the roots that's apart from like integrity, it's so much easier. Like it's easier for you to compromise and have the more convenient life than like stand on your values and have that integrity. So it's not easy, but as you develop in your relationship with God and God becomes the focus, then it's easier for everything to be a no-brainer when you're like faced with it. But it takes time.
And especially during this time, it's like one of those things, like everyone wants to fit in. No one can lie that they don't want to fit in. Everyone wants to fit in. So it's one of those things like, what if I show that I have integrity and whatever, and then it's like, this one's weird or this one doesn't fit in. It's one of those things like, you don't want to, okay, of course we want to stand out, but then not too much. So it's one of those things that's really hard to have.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you need self-control in order for you to actually have proper integrity and everything.
And Fenice, you had an example of...
Yeah, but like, okay, so for example, like standing on your principles, you know, like, okay, in Adventism we're Sabbath keepers, right? Now, for example, like I had to write, like I had a university I'd chosen, but they needed the SATs, the exam. All of them in Malawi are offered on Saturday. So I didn't write any of them because they're all on Saturday. So I can apply, but like it was tough to decide that okay, I'm not gonna write the SATs on Saturday. You know, it's hard, but it's you standing on what you know, what you believe, and like it shows how difficult it can be. But as like if you know that God is your focus, then it's easier to make those choices because it was a really hard choice to make. Yeah,
that's true. That's very true, and I think that's one of the many. It's the most common problem that I think as teens we face, especially as Adventists. The Sabbath, you know, there are a lot of things that happen on the Saturday, and it can be very difficult to say no to them. Especially, I know, for example, for me, the previous school I was at, I was a prefect, and they had this family fun fair thing, but it was on the Saturday, and I'm a prefect, someone who's supposed to be at the top of everything and coordinating everything, but I couldn't be there because it was on Saturday. And just situations like that, it can be very hard to put your foot down. But personally, I found that nothing bad ever really comes out from sticking to your principles and your values. Yes, you may lose people, you may lose your position or whatever, but at the end of the day, the higher power is still God, and you're looking to him, and things always turn out right. And I'll just like to share this verse from Matthew 5 verse 10, which says, "Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." We'll be right back after this song by the Chronicles entitled "Sooner or Later."
Let's bow our heads and kneel. It's time to pray. A brand new day will come, just hold on. There is no time to cry, it's time to say, a glorious day will come, just hold on. Sooner or later I'll be at home. There is no night and so much more. I'll meet the Father, so right on. Sooner or later, all will be gone. Sooner or later, I'll be at home. There is no time to waste, let's tell the world. If there was any change, he would tell. We may not know about tomorrow, the pain and the tears, but a glorious day is coming, just hold on. Sooner or later I'll be at home. There is no night and so much more. I'll meet the Father, so right on. Sooner or later, all will be gone. Sooner or later, I'll be at home. Sooner or later, I'll be at home. There is no night and so much more. I'll meet the Father, so right on. Sooner or later, all will be gone. Sooner or later, I'll be at home. Sooner or later, I'll be at home. There is no night and so much more. I'll meet the Father, so right on. Sooner or later, all will be gone. Sooner or later, I'll be at home. Sooner or later, all will be gone. Sooner
Chronicles for that beautiful item of music. Before the break, we were talking about integrity and how difficult it is to have integrity, but we also talked about how it's very rewarding at the end of the day. Now, do you think that sometimes we set ourselves up? Do we put ourselves in situations where we sort of tempt the temptation? You know, we get ourselves in situations where we then have to compromise.
I think in most cases we do, because as for me, I get a lot of invitations to go to parties. Might not be on a Saturday, might be on a Sunday, but the virtue of going to a party, I don't know what's going to be there. There might be beer, and you know the drinks are just mixed. You don't know what you're drinking. So I think you're going there knowing that I might drink, I might not drink. So you know this is wrong.
Yeah. But I know some situations aren't. Like some things they just come up. For example, like maybe you're part of the netball team. Most of the games have been in the weekend. All of a sudden, the biggest game is on a Saturday. And you're like a part of the netball team. Like you didn't do anything to shift that date, but it's on a Saturday. But you have to deal with it anyways. Like for example, in the Bible, Joseph didn't do anything wrong. But he still Potiphar's wife still, approached him that way. He still had to face it. So some things, I think a lot more things are out of our control. We just have to deal with how we respond to it.
And what would you say to people who maybe struggle with this idea of having integrity? What would you say? What would you say to someone who feels that it's just the most impossible thing to do?
As much as it's impossible, but it's not that you can't reach it. Still, I would say you try harder to have integrity. Do all you can to get there. It might not be easy, but just try. And the good thing is that God did not just leave us alone, right? He left us His Word. He left us His Holy Spirit. So if we depend on these two, if we go hand in hand with these two, I think it will not be that difficult for us to actually maintain integrity.
And personally knowing what you believe in and recalling those values whenever you're faced with a challenge is something. It's a habit you have to develop. It's not something that I have integrity. You have to personally train yourself to recall your values, and then you start standing better. When you're faced with a challenge, you might fall sometimes, but at least you're getting into the habit of it, and that is what builds integrity.
And it obviously wouldn't be easy. It's not one of those things you just wake up today and ooh, I have integrity. It's one of those things, slowly you get there. And if you're struggling, just remember, and it's one of those things like, hey, I really can't do this or whatever, just remember that all things work together for the good for those who love them.
Thank you. We'll be right back after this break.
zinthu zina zikamachitika pa dziko lapansi anthu ambiri sadziwa kuti kodi zikuchitika chifukwa chani, chifukwa choti iwowo alibe chidwi chofuna kudziwa chifukwa chimene zinthuzo zikuchitikira. Mneneri wina otchuka wapempherera mwayi nkhope yachilendo yomwe anthu ambiri akhulupirira kuti ndi ya Yesu Khristu. Mkulu wina wamanga banja ndi piro wake yemwe amamutsamira. Anamanga ukwati ndi mwamuna wakufa kwa zaka 6. Bambo wina wa zaka 61 anamukwirira wamoyo.
Onerani programu ya Zina Ukamva pano pa Hope Channel Malawi. Tuesday lililonse nthawi ya 6 o'clock madzulo. Mu programu iyi mumakhala nkhani zochititsa chidwi zomwe zikuchitika masiku ano otsiriza. Zina Ukamva pano pa Hope Channel Malawi.
Examples of integrity, and also different situations where we've had to keep our integrity. Now, why do you think that a lot of people are two-faced? Because if you're one person in one place and another in another place, then that basically means you don't have integrity. because, like Sibyl said, having integrity means being true to yourself, no matter where you are, like Ray said. So why do you think that we have this two-facism in people?
I feel like it's lack of ideals. We don't know who we are or what we stand for, or our identity in itself. If we know who we are as a person, as a Christian, I don't think it would be a case that some people know me for this, while others know me for this.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an ideal, set a standard for yourself. I am this person, I do this. That way you have an ideal and you know who you are and what you stand for.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this whole idea of I don't want to be boring in front of people. So that actually portrays that we want to impress people more than God, right? So if I'm hanging out with Adele today, I have to be all quiet and holy. If I'm hanging out with Vanessa tomorrow, I have to be all crazy and wild. That's the thing. But we don't have to do that. That's the problem with a lot of people. We change, like I said, according to our environment. If this place is loud, I'll be loud. Even if you were born naturally quiet, you have to be loud. You have to be all noisy and stuff. That's basically the reason, because I don't want to seem boring to others. So yeah.
Yes, and just to make it clear, we're not talking about that if you're like at church, then you have to be, loud or quiet just because you're at church. We're talking about changing your personality or whatever because you're in a certain environment and because you want to be recognized, yeah? And I like what Wintley Phipps once said. He said that you don't need to compromise in order to be recognized. And I find it quite funny that a lot of people change so much when they're in different situations, because if you're doing things just so you can fit in, then obviously you're not going to stand out, but if you're actually different and you don't do the norm just because everybody's doing it, you actually stand out for what that is. And I know it can be hard to be that person who's like, oh, she's just like a holy girl or whatever, or a holy boy or whatever, but I think it's much more rewarding when you're that kind of person. So how can we make integrity practical? How can we start?
Just trying to know that, like, if you're able to take the you that you are at church, at home, at school, wherever, and if you can, like, see that, like, you're maintaining the same you, then okay, you're doing something right, because, like, on me, wherever I am, I don't have to change because of what's around me. Like, I stand on, like, who I am, and that's it. Like, so, like, being able to, like, stop yourselves from, like, falling to that tendency to want to fit in, like you said, and, like, remembering this is me, and me in this environment is going to do this. I'm not going to do what my friends are doing.
Just to add on to what Vanessa said, I think it becomes easier when you learn how to stay true to yourself. Because the moment you do, then what she said will just basically become easier. Like Ray said, once you learn how to set standards for yourself, then everything becomes easier. That's when you learn that, okay, this is me, this is what I do. I don't do this, I do this. And then integrity will become easier for you like that.
That's so true. And would you say anything different to the viewer who may have had like a rocky background and now they want to make this practical? Would you still tell them just to set their standards and change, or how would you?
I would first of all refer them to the word. That is like the biggest comfort we've been given as Christians. For it to seem easier, it's like our guideline, right? For them, if you've had the rocky background and you see, okay, I want to fix my way, I want to mend my way, the best place to go to first of all is to his word. You will see that, okay, so if I have to have integrity, I have to try to do this, I have to try to do that. It's not going to be easy. Like I said before, it's not going to be very easy. But if you know that, okay, I want to change for the better, the word is there for us. Prayer is there for us. Because prayer is like a constant communication between us and God. It's like talking to your parent. So you're actually basically asking God, I need your help. You know where I'm coming from. You know what I've gone through. You know what I've done. But now I want to fix my way. So help me out. And He's always ready to help us out. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you guys. So I'll just like to share with your viewers some of the tips that I found very helpful on how to have integrity. So the first thing is to be honest and transparent, like Vanessa and Maui said. if you're honest, there will be no need to lie. That means being honest in all that you do, your work. It means just being honest in your speech as well. And when you do this, it becomes much easier to have integrity. The next thing, I think Fanice said this a lot, was to revise your values and your beliefs. You need to set out, what are my principles, what are my values, what do I believe in? And that can also help you, it can drive your way to integrity. And then also set your own boundaries. If you are the kind of person who doesn't want to be in situations where you have to compromise, if you make those values known and your boundaries known to your friends, then they'll know that, okay, you know, Sibo, I'm not going to invite her to this party because there's going to be drinking and she doesn't drink. People will know those things when you set your own boundaries. And then lastly, pray about it. Prayer changes things and it helps you all the time. So just pray about it. If you're in a situation where you're finding it difficult to have integrity, then pray about it. But this is just what we had to say. Let's hear from our pastor.
That was quite the discussion. And I like the thought of Christians, having integrity. But it's quite a big word. I mean, how do you understand integrity? What do you take it to be when it concerns us as Christians?
I think someone defined integrity as, it's said to be soundness of moral character.
Okay.
Yeah, soundness of moral character.
Break it down, come on.
Basically, integrity is a basic element that one, as being called a Christian, is supposed to be in you. It's a basic, no question asked. Integrity has to be part of the package of Christianity. So I remember just last Sabbath, Dr. Mfuna was preaching at Kabura. He mentioned that we as Christians, we are so honest in our doings. We are so good at paying tithes, good at keeping the Sabbath holy. But when it comes to bringing in the integrity part of our Christian walk, we lack it. I don't know if I should go into depth of the story that he gave. Maybe you can just help me there.
I think that's fine. I get what you're saying. You know where integrity comes from? The Latin integer, which means whole and complete, right? So when you're saying that someone has integrity, their inner self, they should be whole and complete. And there's so many aspects of being whole and complete that some of us miss out on. We just push on one or two things, right? And so you find that there we are, we have the ability to return our tithes and do everything else, but there's something that is still missing inside of us. And you find that some of us begin to change depending on certain circumstances. We no longer keep that wholeness because of certain things that happen in our day-to-day walk. Now, when you're talking about the whole idea of having integrity, we need to remember first and foremost that on our own we cannot do it. It is impossible. And I know many are saying, but Pastor Ding, integrity, that's quite big. I mean, how can I do it as a young person? Well, Philippians 4:13, very simple. What does it tell us?
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And it's only through Christ that we will be able to have the ability to move forward with integrity, regardless of the situation. Because once Christ comes, he's like the glue that keeps us whole, that puts us together. So where we're breaking apart, where we only have this aspect of that part of us, now he comes and he puts it all together. And that wholeness, that, remember, integer, being whole and complete, the root word for integrity, when Christ comes into the picture, he pulls us together and we now will have the ability to remain whole.
And I think just to add that integrity is essential if we're going to be Christians who are going to help people or give a positive impact on others and have a powerful impact on others. Because like I said, you can say you give in tithe,
but then somebody knows how you got that money, you know. They might know, as today the word cashgate is there. They know you're involved in such a thing, or they know as a youth, maybe you're selling something that you're not supposed to be selling out there, and you're bringing that money into the church. So where is your integrity? You're being honest, giving in your tithe, but where is the integrity in that? So it's a huge element to have in us if we're going to touch other people's life, if we're going to impact positively on others when they see the Christ in us.
I like that. So Christ has to be visible.
Exactly.
Yet again, right again, where we're going back to Christian, where Christ is the center of everything that is being said and done. So try him, try Christ, have him in your life, let him make the difference, and you'll be able to see something new begin to grow in your life, in the way that you live, in the way that you deal things. You will see that you are a Christian with integrity.
Thank you, Pastor, for that. And thank you guys for joining me today. You are with me, your host, Adela Chakota, right here on Hope Channel Malawi. Join us again next week with another episode. Remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you.